Hi, I'm Griff Hall. I'm Senior Professional Faculty Instructor here at Carey. I teach courses in the areas of strategy and leadership. For example, strategic management, otherwise known as capstone, effective teams, leadership in organizations, creative business thinking, those kinds of courses. Well, the syllabi and the instructional materials are constantly changing, and I think that's one of the strengths about Carey, is that we're not static, we don't stay in one place. So one of the things that I start off with is I look at the course standard syllabi. I look at what the cases, what the reading materials, what the exercises are. Then I go back and I review, let's say if I've taught that course before, I review again the student feedback. I also make notes after every class and after every course is concluded. And I review what those notes say, what the student feedback has said. Then what I do is I review what's going on in the field. And one of the things I find very fascinating about both strategy and leadership is the field is new, both fields are new, and they're always changing. New things are coming up. So I want to look for ways that I can relate maybe some new developments to the course material or some of the applied theory. And those are ways that I begin to prepare myself for that semester. One of the things that I think we're very strong at Carey with is our students are from all over the world and from all kinds of different backgrounds. So engaging them really is different for each student. And so I think the real strength of our approach requires a mindset on the part of the instructor or professor to come and show up with a very curious mindset. What is unique about each student? What will open up the doors for them to learn about the course materials? Various cultures obviously have various norms, and we adjust to that. The key thing is to treat each student individually. So looking at that curiosity from a curiosity standpoint helps me prepare for if someone is quiet, for example, they may need to write questions for the answer before they share them with the class. Many cultures are not used to, for example, either raising questions or challenging a professor, whereas those in other cultures, that's part of what you're supposed to do. So what we have to do is not just set up norms in the classroom and make that setting okay, but then we have to look at exercises that might help cultures where that's not a normal or an accepted practice. And one of the things that I find, for example, is if you have people write answers to a question and then share those with the class, that will help some of those students who are either a little bit more introverted, shy, or they may be from a culture where you just don't question or challenge the professor or the instructor. One of the common elements among both strategy and leadership is both can only be done with other people. So when I look at a class that's coming up, I want to think about how can we take the theories that we have and make them applied in the kind of situations that the students might be in or might be from, or they may go to at some point someday. So one of the things that I like to do is at the first, say the first third of the class, is we look at our assigned readings, and I like to have a rich discussion about that. I like to encourage my students, again, in the setting of the classroom, to have a mindset of challenging the standard assumptions or challenging any assumption in there. And those are the key things to really critical thinking and business thinking that are important. So there again, you may find yourself with a group or an individual student that might be introverted or shy, or that culture is not conducive to challenging the instructor. So there's where you use exercises that will help, do a little bit of writing beforehand and then sharing. But I want to hear various ideas around the class, because at the end of the day, we're really there to use the classroom as a container that really helps all students learn, including me. And I really say at the beginning of the class, we're all learning about these fields in the course of leadership and strategy, they're relatively very, very new fields in the course of world history. We are still learning. There are very, very few certainties. So if we're all learning together, that's the kind of mindset that I'd like to see in the classroom, and then challenge the students to also do that in that first third. Then we will get to some cases or some in-class exercises where they can begin to apply some of that thinking in terms of a brief or real-life exercise. And again, it's really an important piece where we want opinions, we want experiences, but they can't leave facts, they can't leave logic behind. They've got to bring those to combine with opinions. And it's very important to point out, I think, to students that part of being an agile leader, part of being an agile business practitioner, or even a studier of business, is to bring an agile mind that's able to really not only move between what's going on and be able to apply it, but even able to change your thinking in a way that really reflects what you've really encountered from research, from the truth, from whatever comes out of our discussions, and then to be able to apply it. So that's the second third. And then we wrap up. What's really important, I think, in business, it's especially important in leadership and strategy, is to uncouple doing with reflecting. So part of the last part of the class is about reflecting on what did we just do, what did we just learn, and what does it mean about the future. Obviously, students want to review future assignments, they want to know what's due, and that needs to be covered. It's also very important to do a little bit of reflection so that we're not just doing mindlessly, but we bring a mindset of thinking about what it is and really digesting that in terms of what its implications are for future actions. One of the first things that I like to say at the beginning of the semester is that just because I'm at the front of the room, please don't believe what I say. You should make me prove it. And the reason for that is I'm going to do that as well for everyone in the class. We have to hold ourselves accountable. In the cases of leadership and strategy, again, those fields are so new that we're still learning, and because there's very, very few certainties, things will be different in 10 years and 20 years than they are today in terms of our knowledge about what works, what doesn't work, or new findings that have come up in the field. So the first thing is to make it an open container that anybody can, with respect, challenge an idea out there, and then to explore it. So when, for example, a student might challenge me, what I will invite that into, now I'm a partner with them and we explore what the truth might be. Both of us might change our mind, or one of us might change our mind, or neither of us may change our mind. And that's true of one-on-one as well as the entire class. So it's that idea of exploration, of being curious, of really always being hungry for what can we find out, what can we learn about this. And if you're a partner with them, then it makes you far less defensive about what you know or don't know. One of the challenges that I think is particularly true for all institutions of higher learning, but also particularly those like Carey, who have students from all over, is that we have students that have been very successful in other areas. And we also have the very different backgrounds that we have. And there, of course, is the advent of technology. Just a few years ago, when I would raise something in the class, students might go back and they might look it up, and they might bring questions back to the following class. Now that's instantaneous. So whatever you say, they're looking it up as you're saying it. So what you want to be sure as you prepare for each class is that you really know the material and the sources. I like to be very strong on holding students accountable for citing sources, whether it's in a PowerPoint, a paper, or even in their thought in the classroom. What are your sources? Where are you getting that? How are you putting that source and that material into some frame of logic? And that's what I want to hold them accountable, and I really challenge them to hold me accountable to that too, because again, we're all learning in this. So That's one of the very key pieces, is to really keep that open and be prepared so that as you're speaking and they're looking up, you are sourcing what you're saying, you've thought this through, you are prepared. So that preparation is a huge part of it. And I would say that's one of the biggest parts, is just making sure. There will be times when we're looking up a current assignment, or we're looking up a current element, and I'll say, let's take a look at what's out there. And within 3 minutes or so, we can come up with a whole lot of material. So you really want to be careful that they're not just scouring the internet for whatever Google can come up with, but you want to point them towards sources that are credible, that have some level of academic rigor, so that they can just not find out what's on Google, but can really go to some places that will provide some insight and look at some research that will provide them some sort of path that will help them understand the material. Well, we have, the electronic, the phone, we've got wonderful avenues with which to do that, and students are operating in a time that's, they expect immediate feedback. So one of the key things is to tell them when you can expect that feedback. A lot of professors, a lot of instructors can get overwhelmed with their inbox or texts or whatever it might be. But I like to use all of those in terms of getting back to students. We've got, Blackboard's a wonderful resource. We can send out all kinds of emails, but sometimes texts work better too. So there's a way that you just kind of keep continually electronically connected and let them know that you're available. My own rule of thumb is I want to get back to them as soon as I practically can, at least knowing them when I'm going to make a decision. If it's about a grade, or if it's just a response to something, when I can take some time to thoughtfully respond to them. And I think that's one of the key in the electronic side of things, is to make sure that I allow some space so that I can give them a thoughtful response, not just a quick response. Well, this past semester, the winter of 2014 has probably been one of the most challenging I've ever experienced here at Carey. And we've done it a number of different ways. Generally, if it's a class that has a case at the end, we'll add on a class. That's typically what students prefer. If it's more of a debrief of some kind of material, it's an Adobe Connect or some similar type of a situation that way. So we've got a lot of different options on how we make up classes, and using the Carey guidelines and student preferences. It's a relatively easy thing to do. One thing I would say, as a professor or as an instructor, you really have to make sure what the guidelines are. If you're going to make a extended class, it's within what the guidelines suggest, and that we hold students accountable for actually either showing up electronically or in person, whatever that might be. I think the biggest thing is to stay open in the classroom, to realize that we are all here to learn together. And we're learning about, the whole field of business, again, is not as old as the field of mathematics or physics or medicine or any of the other more established fields. So we are all still learning. And we as professors and we as instructors are still learning too. And one of the things that makes it fascinating for me is again, in my fields, in leadership and strategy, is just the new research that's coming out, the new material. Things are changing all the time, so it's just fascinating. You have to be a learner yourself in order to help other people learn. And so keeping up with that and keeping up with various forms of research. Carey has wonderful resources through the library system, through all kinds of journals, through all that we have. Other faculty are very giving of their time. We've got a wonderful staff that's able to help out. So take advantage of all of those areas. But I think keeping the classroom open. The other thing that I think is important for especially those of us who have one foot inside of the academic world and one foot inside of the practical business world is to make sure that we often want to bring the stories of what's just happened to us. And it's very important to always be asking, why am I about to say what I'm about to say? Is it interesting to me, or is it important to the students to learn? I think that's one of the key things. They want to hear the stories. They want to hear about what works or what's worked in your real world. But you have to distinguish between what's going to help them learn and what's been interesting to you. That's one of the key pieces. It starts with the students for me. The students are just, it's wonderful to engage them as partners in learning about business, in my case, about leadership, about strategy. It's wonderful to help coach them. It's wonderful to help them learn. You're really a partner in them, and that's that reward of knowing that you're helping somebody on their journey is really where it starts, and that's the bulk of it, certainly for me. But there's more to that, and I think the other side is that as a school, Carey is at a unique intersection where we've got the wonderful resource and history and prestige of the Hopkins community, and we also have this direction and will to integrate business within that, and so we're at a wonderful intersection. So to me, where Carey is and where Carey is going is very, very exciting, and that's rewarding too. And the third part has to do with the fields. Again, I'm interested in leadership and strategy, and so for me, being able to use the Carey library system and to keep up with not all the research, but as much of it as I can, the research that's going on in my fields, Carey has wonderful avenues for that, and that's really exciting. These two subjects to me are just thrilling in many ways, and so being able to continue to explore them and learn about them myself is rewarding. And I would say the other side is that we have very helpful staff. I've just been helped, in so many different ways by different staff members that it's a wonderful community in a way. I think the answer is, to me, stay hungry. Stay hungry about your fields, stay hungry about your students' learning, stay hungry about advancing the whole school. It's really about staying hungry. It doesn't matter how old you are, or how young you are, or what your particular discipline in business is, but if we collectively stay hungry and keep advancing like that, who knows where we can go.